everyone, it's Frankie-Lou. I'm coming to you today from one of the very messy garden beds here at the Grow To Gather Homestead. This is one of my decorative beds that's at the front of the house. And because it's strictly decorative, it gets very little care because I'm all about practicality and things I can eat as well. But I do like to have some nice flowers up at the front of the house. So I've had some folks ask me what some of my favorite hardy perennial flowers and plants for their gardens are. So I thought I'd take this opportunity today, since I'm poking around in here and checking things out, to show you that. I'm very fortunate that I have three of my favorites right here in this one area. This is sort of my set it and forget it bed. Honestly, it doesn't get a heck of a lot of sunshine, and it doesn't get a lot of water either. I don't water it very frequently. So these are all plants that'll do pretty well without a lot of care, even in our harsh conditions. And also I've noticed that they all seem to be pretty deer resistant as well. Throughout the winter, when I do lose a lot of plants to deer, these guys seem to keep coming back. So I thought those of you who live in these crazy conditions would be pretty interested in hearing about that, because if I can grow them here, you could probably grow them in your conditions, unless of course you live in the Arctic. Okay, so first off, I want to talk to you about Virginia. I'm sure I'm butchering that name, and I'm sure it's not correct, but this is an amazing plant. This is a can't kill it with a hammer plant, okay? It actually almost seems to be an evergreen. It's one of the very, very first plants that you will see show up in the springtime, like it's coming up through the snow often. I've also heard it been called elephant ears, although I don't like to call it that, because there's also a tropical plant called elephant ears, and if you stick that in your Calgary garden, it's not coming back next spring. So, but Virginia, unless you poison it, will come back no matter what, under any circumstances. I've never been able to kill one of these. It's amazing. So I love it, okay? And it also has some very nice purple flowers, and I'll show you a couple close-ups of it right now. Okay, so another favorite of mine, because I have to admit, I do love hostas. I adore them. There's supposedly like 4 hostas somewhere in this bed, and yet only one of them seems to really be showing any signs of life. I do tend to lose those more often than some of my other hardy perennials. But the thing that I do that comes back no matter what, and it also has some of the sort of same vibe as a hosta, because it has nice green foliage with lots of speckles on it. If you do have hostas, it's a really nice contrast, because they tend to be stripy or solid, and this is speckly with the green, and that's lungwort. Okay, so lungwort is lovely. It spreads if you let it, okay, which I do let it. I let everything in here sort of fight for survival, and the survival of the fittest is what's going to happen. And it's a nice low liar. It looks wonderful with Virginia and hostas, and it needs nothing. Like it's wonderful. It's hardy. It's got a beautiful purple little flower. It's already flowering, as is my Virginia. The hostas haven't even made an appearance, but the lungwort and the Virginia are already flowering. That's pretty nice. Okay, so I will show you some close-ups of it here. And as you see, it really is quite striking with its foliage and the contrast of the flowers when it comes up. So also in this bed is another one of my perennial favorites, and this one actually is also edible. I'm actually having some trouble with my asparagus this year, and I'm seriously considering replacing it all with this plant, which is called Solomon seal, because Solomon seal is edible. It tastes a lot like asparagus, but it's also very decorative. It comes up tall. Okay, so it's a really nice background plant in a shady area, and it has some really, really pretty little white and green flowers that come off of it. If you're looking for a 3-plant combo that's an easy set it forget it in a shade bed, you can't go wrong. If you got lungwort, Virginia, and Solomon seal in there, it's going to go no matter what. Okay, so that's one of the reasons why it's my favorite, because I don't have a lot of time to spend on strictly decorative stuff. There's a few other things in here that I do like, but those are my favorites in this bed, and that's what this video is about. Favorite Hardy Perennials. I'm going to talk about a few other things now that aren't just shade lovers, but are also good for sun. And there's one here. Now this is a lovely salvia, and I'm so happy somebody actually gifted this to me for doing a presentation, and I was so excited because mine isn't flowering yet, and I wanted to do a video about salvia, but I thought it's no fun to do a video about a plant without, we can't even show how pretty it is. But see how nice that is? Now, the reason I like salvia is A, it's super hardy. It does really well out in a full sunny area. Very drought resistant, I found, which is pretty important when you live here in the prairies. And my bees love it, okay? And I know a lot of people really kind of like the look of lavender. When I tell people, okay, you can try, and you can probably get Munstead or Hildegard to grow here. But if you want something that has that same sort of vibe, but is really easy to care for and you can't kill it, then maybe try some of the perennial salvia. Okay, this is like, I think this is a Russian blue here, but there's several varieties and different heights and different sizes. But the perennial salvia that's hardy to zone 3 is wonderful, and it's also one of the things that's it's got long lasting blooms, which is nice, right? To have something that's going to be blooming for more of the season. That's something that you can really enjoy, right, for a longer time. My cat is killing me. She's savage. Are you a savage? Oh my gosh. See, can't kill it with a hammer. The cat is literally dust bathing in the Virginia, and it doesn't care. Okay. She's savage. Okay, so salvia. All right. Or perennial sage. It's been called Russian sage. These are all wonderful, and they're a great floral centerpiece, and they're also very loved by our pollinators, so that means I love it too, right? Okay, so now I'm going to take you to a different part of the garden where I can show you some more of my favorites. You are crazy. Okay, so now we're in another part of the garden here. This is actually an edible part of the garden, but I also have some decorative elements in here that are edible. And what we have here is one of the first things that comes up as well, and you've probably seen this in lots of stuff before. It's likely that you might think that this is just an annual. This is Creeping Jenny. Okay, I will bring you up closer, but just so you can see, you've seen that, I'm sure, before. You'll always find it in a lot of annual baskets, hanging baskets, because it's a really nice spiller. Okay, it fills it, but it's also a wonderful ground cover for areas where you really want to help try to keep your weeds at bay, or you just want to fill a space. And if you want spilling over, honestly, you can't do better than this stuff. This is Creeping Jenny. This is a really nice golden variety, and another thing that it does is it eventually does start to have, later on in the season, some lovely little yellow flowers. So not only is it a great filler and speller, but it's also a wonderful flowering plant at times too. Another great thing about Creeping Jenny that a lot of people don't know is that it's actually edible as well. This is a component in a lot of my floral garden teas that I make. I do a whole bunch of different teas made out of stuff that's growing in my garden, and the Creeping Jenny is lovely to add. It actually tastes a lot like tea. Most people do think of this as strictly ornamental, but you can also use it for some practical purposes as well. But one warning I want to give you, because it is a hardy perennial, sometimes when people throw their annual basket fillers away, they might find that this stuff is coming up in different places in their garden or in their compost, because it's not an annual. Okay, it's often sold as an annual, but it's not. It's a perennial. Okay. And I hope you'll give it a try if you haven't grown it before, because it is quite lovely. This bed is going to be full of ferns and hostas, and the ferns are just starting to come up, and the hostas are just starting to come up. But this is already starting to fill the area in, as well. So it's a really nice early season plant to deal with too. All right, so let me take you to just a couple more things here. Now we're here at another area of my garden where I've got some edible perennials mixed in with my decorative perennials. And I have to say, I love alliums. They're just so beautiful. These are just starting to come to bud up now, but they're going to become really quite lovely, and there's lots of them throughout here. Alliums are wonderful for when I want to do little bee photo shoots, because they're going to be sitting on there and posing just lovely very, very soon. And it's one of the early spring flowers, so I do like to see some buds up out and about in the early spring. And right next to it is some bee balm. I have 3 different kinds of bee balm here. I love it because it is so super hardy, and it's also useful. I do use it in teas. It tastes a lot like Earl Grey is the flavor that it's most closely associated with. So, but you do want to taste it because it has a very strong flavor, but it is quite delightful. And even though this isn't blooming yet, I like it because it's got lots of nice greenery coming up. It's got some good height to it, so it's quite attractive to have in the garden at this time of the year when there's still not a lot going on. It's nice to see something so lush and green coming up, especially when you mix it with something lovely like alliums. Okay, so these are two of my favorite can't kill it with a hammer spring perennial. Well, I consider the bee balm a spring because it is such nice foliage this time of the year. I'll also include it in my summer stuffs, because wait till you see how pretty it is when it does start blooming. Okay, and I'm going to take you to one other thing that you're probably going to say, oh Frankie, but honestly I do believe it's one of my, I use it as a decorative thing, not just an edible thing. Okay, so last but definitely not least in my books is rhubarb. Okay, look at this stuff. Like, I love rhubarb. Even if I didn't love the flavor, look how beautiful this is. I've already used this in 3 floral arrangements this year because it's just such a beautiful, lush, gorgeous leaf. It's extremely hardy and it's delicious. Okay, I know that I'm supposed to be just doing decorative stuff right now, but even if I didn't love eating rhubarb, I would still grow it because it is so beautiful. Okay, and it makes a nice backdrop. You do have to make sure it's not spreading. Okay, it's one of those ones that if it's happy, it's going to go places. But I keep this contained in a nice raised bed, and it's lovely. Okay, so there you go. I hope that was helpful. As you know, I am extremely practical, but I do like things to be pretty as well. And these are some of my early spring pretty stuff, okay, that you might want to consider. If you want to have some decorative beds that are really low maintenance and will survive harsh winters, the suggestions that I've made here will be helpful to you. Keep posted if you want to see more. I'll be doing various perennials throughout the years so that you can see what are great for summer and what's great for fall as well. And there's also tons of other stuff going on in the homestead if you want to like and subscribe and see so that you can keep in touch with what we're doing here. And as always, I hope you take this chance to grow together today. Have a good one.